The sky appears to be no limit at all for the value of Bitcoin. It's just surged to another record high. And the reason for the jump this time is an about turn by the world's biggest exchange group. Now, the digital currency rose for a third consecutive day, rising above $6,600 per Bitcoin. That means it's risen by more than 800% over the last 12 months. Now, CME Group said it plans to launch a Bitcoin futures contract by the end of this year. Just a month ago, it had dismissed such a plan, but it now says there is a lot of client demand for such an instrument. If it receives regulatory approval, a futures contract would allow traders to bet on whether the highly volatile virtual currency is going to rise or fall. Such contracts will allow banks and trading firms to protect themselves against the wild swings in Bitcoin's value. But a futures contract would also make it safer for retail investors to take advantage of the rise in the virtual currency. That is because the contract would be regulated by the exchange on which it is traded. But the move could be a risky one for CME if Bitcoin's price falls sharply. And there are still plenty of financial experts who are skeptical about the digital currency. In September, JP Morgan's CEO Jamie Dimon said that Bitcoin is a fraud that will eventually blow up. So let's get more on this with Jeffrey Tucker. He joins me now live from Atlanta in Georgia. He's the Director of Content at the Foundation for Economic Education. Welcome back to Money Talks, Jeffrey. So look, let's get this out of the way. Tell me, you told me so, right?
I keep telling you so. Every time you have me on, I tell you. And you often get me on when the price collapses. And I say the same thing every time. It's a correction. Hold on, and we're going to see. We're going to the moon.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for years.
Yeah, you have indeed. But how much of a victory really is this for Bitcoin? Does this finally bring Bitcoin into the mainstream of investment?
I really do think that this decision cements Bitcoin's status as the premier digital currency. And there has been something of a competition emerge over the last year. Would it be Ether? Would it be Dash? Would it be some other digital asset? Now, with this announcement, I think we can say for the foreseeable future, Bitcoin is the gold of the crypto world.
So you mentioned all these other virtual currencies as well, like Ethereum. Do you think that that these other currencies will also be included in future exchange-traded funds, for example?
They very well may. One thing you really need to understand, we all need to recognize this about Bitcoin, it is not scalable to accommodate all the world's financial transactions. It was not built that way. It's supposed to be a final clearing system. What we're going to see emerge in the future is a series of side chains and lightning networks and plugins and other cryptocurrencies and crypto asset services that are going to handle day-to-day transactions in these kind of financial instruments. It will not be Bitcoin. Bitcoin will eventually emerge as a final payment system, but there will be other things operating within it on a competitive basis. I know this probably sounds a little chaotic, but I think we're just going to have to live with it for the foreseeable future. This is an innovative technology.
Right. Once we start seeing futures being traded, do you think we're going to see a lowering of the volatility in the price of the underlying Bitcoin?
I was thinking about that. Back when the Chicago Mercantile Exchange first opened up with the commodities market, it did reduce the volatility in seasonal wheat prices, for example. But the problem is that it can only reduce the volatility to the extent that investors can anticipate predictable patterns in future valuations. You see what I mean? I'm not sure that that's entirely true with Bitcoin. I mean, there's a certain amount of mysticism that goes along with anticipating these price changes. You remember last month, we fell from 5,000 all the way down to 3,000, and it truly felt like falling out of the sky. It was pretty scary for novice investors. That could happen again. When? Nobody knows. Or we could be headed straight to $10,000. there really is not the kind of predictable behavior in Bitcoin prices that you would see in other commodities markets.
Jeffrey, we're shortly going to be running out of time, so I have to ask you this one final question. Are you expecting a written apology from Jamie Dimon for calling Bitcoin traders stupid?
My friend, I've been waiting for written apologies for about 5 years, and none has ever arrived. I've given it up.
Jeffrey Tucker in Atlanta, as always, thank you very much indeed.